In 2018, the quiet city of Rosario was shaken by a mystery that would soon capture the attention of the entire country. News began to spread about the sudden disappearance of a man named Alejandro Gutierrez. Known by friends and co-workers as a dependable and calm person, Alejandro worked as a long-distance truck driver. One day, while traveling along one of his regular delivery routes, he simply vanished without leaving any trace behind. For his family, the situation made no sense. Alejandro was a man of strict habits. He followed the same routines every day and always stayed in contact with his loved ones. The idea that he could just disappear without warning seemed impossible. Several days later, investigators discovered his truck abandoned in a remote parking lot near the highway. The hazard lights were still blinking, as if the driver had stepped away for only a moment. Inside the cab, Alejandro's phone, wallet, and personal belongings were neatly arranged. Nothing appeared stolen. Everything looked strangely organized, almost to perfect. At first glance, it seemed like a simple disappearance. But police quickly realized something darker might be hiding beneath the surface. Clara Martinez had spent her entire life in Rosario, Argentina. At 32 years old, she had never lived anywhere else. The city's narrow gray streets and rows of nearly identical houses formed the world she had always known. But for Clara, that world often felt suffocating. As a child, she had been quiet and well-behaved. Teachers described her as responsible and focused. She rarely caused trouble and usually kept to herself. Yet deep inside, Clara felt restless. As she grew older, the predictable rhythm of small-town life began to frustrate her. Working at a local pharmacy and spending weekends with the same circle of friends no longer satisfied her. She wanted something more, something exciting, unpredictable, and different from the life she had always known. Clara met Alejandro Gutierrez when she was 28 years old. Alejandro was 5 years older than her, tall and confident, with dark hair and sun-tanned skin from years spent driving across the country. He carried himself with quiet strength. They met through a mutual friend, and at first their relationship seemed casual. But Clara quickly felt drawn to Alejandro's calm personality. His stability felt like a safe harbor compared to the restlessness she constantly felt inside. Within a year, the two were married. Alejandro worked hard and earned a good income as a truck driver transporting cargo across Argentina. Because of his discipline and long hours on the road, he was able to save more money than many people his age. Each month he deposited part of his earnings into a savings account. He often talked about the future he wanted to build with Clara. His dream was simple. One day they would buy a larger house outside the city. It would have a garden, space for guests, and a comfortable living room where they could relax after long days. Slowly, that dream began to feel realistic. Alejandro's savings continued to grow, and the idea of owning that home no longer seemed far away. But while Alejandro saw their life as stable and secure, Clara began to experience it very differently. Alejandro followed a strict routine. He left for work early, returned home at predictable times, and rarely went out late. Evenings were quiet. Sometimes they watched television together. Sometimes they simply sat in silence. At first, that calm lifestyle had felt comforting. But over time, it started to feel suffocating to Clara. Whenever Alejandro left for long trucking trips, she spent days alone in their apartment. With too much time to think, her imagination began to wander. She spent more and more hours online, searching for something to fill the growing emptiness she felt. At first, it was harmless curiosity. She read articles, forums, and stories about people living secret lives. Gradually, her attention shifted toward darker topics. Crime stories fascinated her. She began following online communities where anonymous users openly discussed illegal activities and hidden desires. The more she read, the deeper she fell into that world. Meanwhile, Alejandro continued living his ordinary life, completely unaware that his wife was becoming consumed by fantasies that grew darker every day. Neighbors began noticing small changes in Clara. She became more distant and less social. Conversations were shorter. She avoided gatherings she once attended regularly. Inside her mind, Clara felt trapped by the life she had chosen. She no longer wanted to be the quiet wife waiting for her husband to return from work trips. She craved something more intense, something dangerous, something that would break the endless routine. Her imagination started pushing beyond the screen of her computer. She wondered what it would feel like to live outside the rules, to experience the adrenaline she had read about in those online stories. Soon, curiosity turned into something far more dangerous. Clara began spending more time away from home. Neighbors occasionally spotted her in different areas of downtown Rosario. Sometimes she appeared in small bars or gatherings where few people recognized her. No one knew exactly what she was doing, but her frequent absences were becoming noticeable. Meanwhile, Alejandro continued his work as usual. Long trucking routes often kept him away from home for several days at a time. In late June, he accepted another routine assignment. The job required him to transport cargo from Rosario to Córdoba and then return home within 3 days. It was a trip he had made many times before, but on the evening he was expected to return, Alejandro never arrived. His phone remained silent. Shortly afterward, Clara contacted the police and reported her husband missing. She explained that Alejandro had called her the day before his scheduled return. According to her, their conversation had been completely normal. He told her the delivery was finished and that he was heading home, but he never made it back. Alejandro's family immediately sensed something was wrong. He had always been reliable. If he was ever delayed, he made sure to call. His mother, Maria Gutierrez, repeatedly dialed his phone number, hoping he would answer. Each unanswered call filled her with dread. Days passed with no answers. Police began investigating by contacting Alejandro's employer and confirming his delivery route. The company verified that the shipment had been delivered successfully in Córdoba, but no one had seen him after that. Investigators searched the highway route between Córdoba and Rosario. There were no signs of accidents or breakdowns. Then, 2 days later, officers discovered Alejandro's truck abandoned near a remote highway parking area. Inside the cab, everything looked unusually clean. His phone and wallet were still there. Nothing had been taken. For investigators, that detail was troubling. If robbery wasn't the motive, then what had happened? Police retrieved the truck's navigation system, which showed a normal route from Córdoba back toward Rosario. But surveillance cameras along the highway revealed something unexpected. At one point, the truck had turned off the main road and entered a secluded dirt path leading toward an abandoned property. When officers searched the area, they initially found nothing, but their suspicions were growing. Meanwhile, investigators started examining Clara's digital activity. They discovered she had been communicating with an anonymous user online known as El Lobo Negro. Their messages were encrypted and sent through a private messaging platform. This discovery immediately caught the attention of detectives. Forensic teams also noticed something strange inside Alejandro's truck. The interior had been thoroughly cleaned. For a long-distance driver returning from a trip, that level of cleanliness was highly unusual. It suggested someone had deliberately removed evidence. As investigators dug deeper, Clara slowly became the center of their suspicion. Financial records revealed that she had transferred large amounts of money to anonymous accounts months before Alejandro disappeared. Meanwhile, police traced the online identity of El Lobo Negro to a man named Diego Pereira, who had previous convictions for fraud and theft. When officers checked his phone location data, they discovered something alarming. On the day Alejandro vanished, Diego's phone had been near the abandoned warehouse outside Rosario. Soon after, police searched that warehouse. Inside, they found disturbing evidence. A large tarp stained with what appeared to be blood lay on the floor. Nearby were plastic containers that smelled strongly of gasoline. Laboratory tests confirmed the blood belonged to Alejandro Gutierrez. The case had now turned into a homicide investigation. Days later, after pressure from detectives, Diego Pereira finally confessed. According to his statement, Clara had approached him months earlier with a proposal. She offered him money to help eliminate her husband so she could gain access to his savings and start a new life. The plan was carefully designed. On the day of the crime, Clara sent Alejandro a message claiming her car had broken down near an isolated warehouse area. Concerned for his wife, Alejandro changed his route and drove to help her. When he arrived, Diego attacked him from behind with a metal bar. Alejandro collapsed immediately. They placed his body in Clara's car and transported him to the warehouse, where the situation turned even more brutal. Afterward, they attempted to destroy the evidence and staged Alejandro's truck abandonment to make it look like a mysterious disappearance, but their plan began falling apart when witnesses reported seeing a man and woman inside the truck shortly before it was abandoned. Eventually, investigators uncovered Alejandro's remains hidden inside a concealed section of the warehouse. During the trial, Prosecutors presented overwhelming evidence, including surveillance footage, financial records, witness testimony, and Diego's confession. The court concluded that Clara Martinez had orchestrated the entire crime. She was sentenced to life imprisonment, without the possibility of parole. Diego Pereira received 25 years in prison after cooperating with investigators. The murder of Alejandro Gutierrez shocked Argentina and served as a chilling reminder of how greed and betrayal can destroy lives. A quiet town, a trusted marriage, and a carefully planned crime all unraveling in the darkest way imaginable. If you found this case interesting, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more true crime stories.